Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there.
Making sure we got it. We got it.
Yay.
Okay, guys. So I would encourage everybody to listen to this one 2 or 3 times because I think that this may be one of the most, in my opinion, this is the most important video you're going to listen to. Because I think that it's going to give you kind of everything, the key to everything. And I wish that we could get this across just in as clear and plain a language as possible. And some of the language is very clear and plain. Last night was a very long night for us as we basically channeled through the middle of the night, woke up after a couple hours sleep and, went into channeling mode and then into analyzing and meditation mode on everything that we had received, which was all stuff that we had put together before, but spoken in more plain language. And, want to start right out by telling everybody that as we had talked about 2 timelines, the timeline that looks likely right now is one in which, as we had said, before this month even started, it's going to be paradigm shifting. Everything's going to change.
Everything's going to look a lot different than it used to, and it is. We do have an opportunity here to stabilize things, and like we've said before, things need to change, but I don't see why people really need to be disrupted that much. I feel we have the ability to stop and make timelines look better.
Yes, and it takes our consciousness and our concerted effort. So, right now, before we get started, let's send out a prayer for everyone in the planet that is going through very, very challenging times, suffering with so many different things going on, from obvious earth changes, the plague upon the land, the lockdown, the loss of, in so many cases, people's livelihoods, their security. This is the most challenging of times, and before we are done with these times, it will make so many of the challenges that perhaps our parents and grandparents or great-grandparents went through in these historical periods that we read about when we go to school appear to be, I don't want to say a walk in the park, but nothing compared to the roller coaster ride that we're on in these times right now.
Mm-hmm.
Many people are familiar with this. And, this leads to, well, there's a song by Pink Floyd, Comfortably Numb. It's just a little pinprick, right? And for you that's pretty obvious. AI might even be able to pick up on that, as AI is getting smarter and smarter all the time as it gets integrated with non-terrestrial intelligences. This is one of the things that is, in so many ways, one of the things I feel people just need to come to the realization that the planet is not controlled by Homo sapiens. That's the bottom line. This planet is not controlled by Homo sapiens. And right there, many people will, because of their religious indoctrination, click off or thumbs down because it doesn't fit my paradigm. I've been so, and they won't say it this way, but I've been so indoctrinated into a belief system that says the earth is all there is, there's nothing else. And without realizing that's the paradigm that the controllers want you to believe. They don't want you knowing that they're not from here exactly. Mm-hmm. That puts them in total control and power over you.
It really does. And sit with that for a little bit and think about that, how much power that brings over anybody who's had this indoctrination since they start children in preschool now to 3 years old. So they really have these, they really have us educated in such a deep core way that many people don't even know that they're indoctrinated. They have no clue.
So, so much of this world is focused on this right now. It's focused on this. And of course, this is something that's very small that's been magnified so many times. And, again, the cure, quote unquote, apparent cure. And again, many of us, I mean, we know the science. I see so many people sharing info. I think we have people that are not completely awake, but completely awake to the fact that there's something much bigger going on. And of course, we have those that are walking sheeple and zombies that don't have a clue or don't want to have a clue because it's going to blow their paradigm. And it's going to just shake their foundation of everything that the world is to them, to the core. So they cannot look at the truth. When we show this side by side with this and say there is a strong relationship between the two, more than a strong relationship, there's a cause and effect relationship between the two. To the left, you're looking at a representation of Nibiru. And we've gotten some really good channeling messages from the Galactic Federation about exactly, where is Nibiru? And where at the same time. Where physically and where vibrationally, density-wise. And so, we've got some information on that we're going to share with you guys as well. And again, there's a cause and effect relationship between these two things. And what we have gotten is that you guys remember how the world changed with this event? The potential is there right now for something like this or greater to happen in the US of A. And many people know this, they've felt this. People are having dreams and visions. It's written in the old Bible there that in the latter days, you're going to have dreams and visions. Why? Because we're coming out of the Kali Yuga. It's written in other places too. And so that's the thing. They can't hide all this. They could smear dogma all over it to try to get you ready to pick up arms and to go against thy neighbor, to go against other countries, thinking that, or other people with other, religious beliefs. It's all about keeping you divided. You just got to look to the Tower of Babel, as we've quoted a million times. They tell you right there, look, mankind's united. We can't have this. Get down there and scatter them. Make them fight against each other. As long as they keep themselves occupied, with internal conflict, they'll never figure out what's really going on. So after that event, we had the Patriot Act. Everything changed. Welcome to the police state.
Yes, welcome to the police state. And the Patriot Act is supposed to be patriotic. If you love your country, you're going to support us. If you want to be respected by your friends and neighbors, come support us.
There was a project that was talking about a new American century and how to secure American dominance through 2100. And in 1997, it came out with some recommendations. And what we saw transpire after that horrible day in September, way back in 2001, was exactly what it was talking about.
Yeah, which is a shame.
4 years earlier, it was right out there. It's always been in front of our faces. They have to put it out there in front of our faces. It has to be right in front of our faces because we have to, in some way, shape, or form, condone it. When we go vote in a system where both sides are on the payroll and we think we're voting for the better choice, in some cases we think we're voting for the lesser of two evils. Mm-hmm. We're still saying, I agree with the system. Mm-hmm. Do we recognize that? You're basically condoning the system. You're participating. Why do you think they care about voter participation? Why do you think they care about people actively participating in the economy? Because, again, it's their system. It's their system, not our system. And now if you go and punch in this phrase there, you're going to see a ton of maps pop up where there were no maps just a few months ago, because it's getting to be very, very evident that this country is on a collision course with itself. With itself. And people have all different ideas of how this is going to pan out. But now, it almost seems that you might get the majority saying this is a forlorn fact. It's heading that way. There's not much we could do about this. Interesting, is it not? I mean, I've been saying this is coming since 2017. The first videos I ever put up, one of them was saying this is going to happen. This is part of the bigger plan. Again, 400 plus million small arms in the US in the hands of its citizens. The US is not easy to take care of or not easy to invade. So it's got to, again, get us to do the job for them. Mm-hmm. And this is all part of it. This is all part of what we are seeing. How is this going to turn out? We don't know exactly. Cindy has seen it broken up into 5 different pieces. But again, timelines are always changing. So that can change too. And yet in some ways, everything has to break down into smaller components. It's by the big alphabet soup agencies that we're all controlled. And that goes up to that U.N. entity. And after the U.S. is occupied with fighting itself, then we have that movie from the 80s that they remade a handful of years back. Boy, it looks like that's a Red Dawn, doesn't it? That scenario is on the table too, along with blue helmets being invited into the country. So what's the end product? This for everybody. That's what they want. They want that system on a global scale.
Yeah, I just can't help but look at that sickle sticking out there like a sore thumb. And what we were talking about sickles the last couple of weeks,
Oh, a certain, DR period.
Yep.
FAUCI, it means the sickle maker.
Yep.
The maker of sickles. What do you do with sickles? You reap.
Mm-hmm.
You reap, you harvest. There's a harvest going on right now, guys. A harvest is underway. And if we go back far enough, there's so many clues as to what's really going on and what has happened on this planet numerous times. When the planet awakens in consciousness to a certain degree, you have another Tower of Babel incident. And is the Tower of Babel about men sinning against the creator of the universe? Absolutely not. That is one of the biggest lies perpetrated on humanity you can imagine. The creator of the multiverse, we should say, or multiverses, allows free will. And that's why we see atrocities, because free will is allowed. And there's certain guidelines. There's what we would call source laws. Now, there are entities that have portrayed themselves to be the creator of the multiverse, but they're not. In fact, in many cases, these beings are really lower astral realm entities, not too high up on the totem pole.
Right, taking advantage wherever they're allowed.
Yeah, and there's clues. There's clues all over the place as to who these beings are and how they view humanity. This is how they view humanity. Well, let's see. I see beings flying around in the sky, and I see humans tied around at the neck, hands tied behind the back, all tied together. Well, that looks like slavery. Yes, they view humans as nothing but slaves. What do they want to do? They want to tie you to them. And that's what they are doing right now. They're tying you to them by your own free will. By your own free will in so many cases. Again, every time you say, yes, okay, I'll go along with it. You're giving away your freedom. You're going along with their vision for you. There's clues to who these beings are. When you see the heads like this, these are the Igigi, the ones we call the Igigi, the ones in the Sumerian myths that rebelled against the Anunnaki and said, we're not going to do any more hard work, no more physical labor for us. And then the Anunnaki took what was evolving naturally here on the planet, and they didn't upgrade it, they downgraded it spiritually. So it couldn't rise above a fourth density existence. And again, there's clues as to what these beings really are all over the planet. They're everywhere you look. Now, this poster has a statement there, and that's incorrect because technically this family is Igigi, I-G-I-G-I. These are Igigi. These are not the Anunnaki. These are Igigi. So there are Igigi offspring that control secret groups across the planet, including that ill group, that begins with an I, ends with an I. But the ones that oversee those groups are the Igigi themselves, that were basically stationed on the planet of the god of war. Why is it the god of war? Because this whole group is all about conquest. That's what they're about, conquest and enslavement. That's how they operate. That's how they roll. And that's how they get us to give our freedoms away. We agree with their monetary system. We go ahead and pick one of their politicians. Anyway, we're basically giving away our freedoms.
And remember, they've had more than enough time to do trial and error to see how we're going to react to certain things. So like when you're herding cattle into a chute, the ranchers and the horses get very, very smart at understanding what the cattle's going to do, how they're going to react. So they already know to kind of take care of that before it even happens. And that's where we're at. They know what our reactions are going to be for the most part through conditioning.
Beings of very, very high vibration come to the planet on a regular basis trying to help us free ourselves, because we have to free ourselves. The beings of the highest vibration, they believe in free will because Source wants it that way. It's all about free will. Yet, when you have that free will multiverse, you will have some that will take advantage of others. And ultimately, like when you're going up into seventh density, as we were conversing with the one known as Isis Aset, and she was talking about seventh density, it's all service to others. It's all about service. Think about angels. What do angels do? Well, the original word for angel means messenger. And again, a lot of things are distorted. As I've said, I do not believe in the legitimacy of the Book of Enoch. I think the Book of Enoch is out there for those that are awakened to a certain level. And then this is going to catch you in another loop that's going to distort things so that you're not seeing it for what it is. There's so many catches, so many roads that as you go along, think of it as a labyrinth, and you're going down this labyrinth and you run into a dead end. And it might be that you recognize that the Catholic Church, well, something doesn't jive here. If you're born Catholic, they have more riches than any other singular entity that's private. Well, Christ said, if you really want to follow him the whole way, then give everything away. Yeshua, did say, give everything away, follow me. Give it to the poor, help the poor, and come follow me. And then you'll start to store treasures up in the heavens, the real heavens, like seventh density, sixth density. Fifth density is really just the beginning of it. And of course, higher fourth is like heaven compared to here, and compared to the lower fourth, which is really like the astral, it really is a version of hell, so to speak. And that's where the beings like the Anunnaki and the Draco, for the majority of them, reside. They're stuck, and they want you to be stuck with them. They want company. Why would you want to keep company like that?
Right.
So when we see these big hats, originally it was to hide their big heads because they were different. And they've interbred over throughout the years, and that's not as prominent as it was. But those skeletons, those skulls, that's EGG. And
can you imagine the brain power of what they have, how they could manipulate things and get people to do whatever they want to just by thinking certain thoughts or putting out certain frequencies with those brains? And imagine the pineal gland. So yes, do they have control? Oh boy, they can take a lot of control, but we can take our own selves back. So we got to think about that.
Yeshua used to speak in parables, so I'll give you a parable. All right, say you roll in to your favorite mechanic, or a mechanic that you've been introduced to, and you say, "Oh, my car has so many miles on it. It's got 50,000 miles, 60,000 miles. Oh, well, we got to do a tune-up." Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's been a while. All right, you do the tune-up. Meanwhile, this guy's kind of shady. So maybe he does something. Maybe he plays with something. Maybe he introduces a fluid where it doesn't belong. Next thing you know, you come back in with some brake problems, like 5,000 miles later. Oh boy, look at this. The calipers are failing. You're going to need calipers. You know what? You might as well, the rotors, we can't save them. You're going to need pads. We're going to have to do this. It's going to be so much money. Oh, well, yeah, it's been a while. Okay, we'll go along with it. Meanwhile, the next thing he does is he puts the wrong fluid in the rear differential. And so you're going to need a new rear end 5,000 miles later. Oh, man, really? Those things should last longer than that. You get a little bit suspicious, but you still go along with it because he's the expert, right?
Right.
So you go along with it. What if he keeps doing things like this the entire time? That's kind of like what we have going on right now. Think about that. Problem, reaction, solution. And the solution was the whole idea in the first place, so to speak. It's hiding in plain sight, guys. It's hiding in plain sight. I go back to They Live, the movie They Live, Roddy Piper, which, in my life, was it a big coincidence that the one time I met him was right after he got done with the filming. And this was at the Hard Rock Cafe up in Toronto, Canada. And he actually bought me and a couple of my friends beers. He was a nice guy. And we sat down and talked. And he said, I got done filming a really important movie. And he told us about it. And he said, you know what? Might sound crazy, but it's real. And it is real. It's slightly different, but again, it's hiding in plain sight, the reality of what's going on. Cindy has to look away when she sees this being, as this is very much what like some of these darker entities truly look like. So what's the end product here? This is the end product. Now, if you guys remember in Star Trek, the Borg, you kind of lose who you are. You're just part of their machine, part of the machine, losing our free will, losing our individuality. Everything they do mimics reality. So where are we right now? Well, if there wasn't this structure in effect, right now the whole globe would be blossoming with Christ consciousness. Again, they take the mission of Yeshua, turn it into a blood sacrifice, which it never was. That doesn't mean because we, for instance, don't believe in the blood sacrifice. Why should anybody believe in a blood sacrifice? I mean, question why.
It's a blood sacrifice. I mean, let that sink in.
Yes, I mean, wake up, humanity. Wake up. It's a blood sacrifice. What type of creator of the universe, multiverse, would demand a blood sacrifice? This type. Who would demand a blood sacrifice? Yeah. Yes. Not Source. Source doesn't demand a blood sacrifice. Never. Yeshua's mission was, again, a mission like so many other benevolent ones to let us know who we are. And when he said, I and the Father are one, he recognized that source is in him. Source energy is in him. And he is above these beings. They can't affect him. They might be able to try to take his body, but they can't really affect who he is because he knows who he is. And again, if he said that we could do greater things than him, obviously, how could we possibly do greater things than him if source wasn't in us too? And if source is omnipresent, it has to be in us. It has to be. There's no other way around it. You know, the world has been lied to on so many levels, again, by beings that are not really nice. They're not really benevolent, that you really don't want to hang out with at the Hard Rock Cafe at 1 a.m. having a beer with.
Mm-mm.
You don't want to. You don't want to go down that road. It's all hiding in plain sight, guys. And again, everything that we see going on in this world, it rolls back to that. So we want to share with you, and again, this was recorded last night at 1 a.m. So, you know, bear with us with the quality. And when Cindy's in deep trance, you know, again, it's not like we could go over it in any way, shape, or form. It's not rehearsed. It's spontaneous. And it's just connecting to these beings that are benevolent and do care about us. And most of them, again, are going to be on 5D and above. As the Galactic Federation, the ones that we're in contact with, they are on 5D. And Isis Aset, she is on 6D. And so here we go. We're going to share. And one of the things I wanted to preface with this too is this is actually a part 2 of a message of which we were told for our own safety not to release part 1, not to take away from this, because part 1 was mostly about us personally. And, you know, just more about us and a message for us. Although we started to talk about this important message for everybody out there at the end of that. So it's kind of a recap here and then going forward, because really we are in critical days. It's just as if right now is September 9th, going back 20 years.
Talking about we are within days of something. We're talking about the timeline separations. And we need to change the timeline.
Yes, we do need to encourage people to find it within their hearts, bodies, and minds to find stability for your country at this time. We need people to find their center as the energies come up from you, from your very being during this time. Your energies are what can change everything. Everyone on an individual basis, as many as possible. We need to find this center in their being. We're looking at the next coming days, and then after that, the weeks to follow, to help change this timeline into a positive outcome.
Okay, so I'm going to do something a little different so we could like recap as we go.
Yeah, because it is difficult to hear, but it's important.
Yes. So basically, what she is saying is the next couple days are critical, and then again, within a couple weeks. So there feels like there's the potential for major events in the next couple days. Could happen anytime, and then there's going to be another window that's going to be within, say, the 23rd, which I had heard and gotten myself earlier. I feel like when I got that, I was listening in That was not a message that I picked up from the Galactics or from ISIS. I feel I was hearing what the actual controllers, the ones that are under the control of the Draco, Anunnaki, Gigi, were planning. I feel like I was hearing them speak their plans. And so the date that was given there to me, that I listened in on, was August 23rd-ish. And again, depending on where you're at, it might be August 22nd or maybe August 24th in a different time zone. It does feel like the focus of what's going on is not necessarily earth change. It doesn't mean that it can't be made to look like an earth change. Mm-hmm. But it feels like what we're talking about is geopolitical, and it feels like what we're talking about is pushing that inevitability of the split up of the country, as well as a greater police state, and all about weakening everything to the point where there is that scenario that we all end up under the CCP system. I heard somebody else making reference. We're all living in the yellow submarine.
Right.
Yeah, maybe it's a red submarine they all plan on us living in.
And also what she's saying in there is she's asking for everyone to find their center point of stability, because that's what's going to happen. Is there's going to be an attempt to destabilize the country. How do we change that timeline? We change it from within ourselves first. We find our center. We sit down, we find our center, and we become strong. We become bold so that this timeline is not so disruptive.
And then we also recognize that they always take advantage of these things and reel into effect more and more changes in legislature, more and more EOs, executive ORDERSs, in which so many changes have been made over the years during, times of critical cataclysm, the chaos, the T word. That's always used to effect more change that takes away our ability to govern ourselves and puts more control in their hands. So that will be going about as well, obviously. So again, we cannot say, I submit, I give authority to other beings to take control of our own lives, and so as we had done before, a video given a mantra which says, we do not agree, we do not submit, we do not agree, we do not submit. Claim your sovereignty. I am a sovereign being. I renounce any sort of agreements that I've given to these dark forces through not understanding exactly what I am doing. And so many people have done that. They've given away their power because they've been coerced and because they don't understand what they're even saying. So we need to take back our own sovereignty, and we need to say, no, we're not going along with these dark plans. And the most important way to prepare, definitely prepare with food, water, shelter, medicines, all these type of things, basic first aid, plenty of seeds, plenty of growing materials, all that stuff, backup power generation, backup water. Yes, but get yourself rooted spiritually. Recognize that you are a eternal being having a temporary experience, and you don't want to trade away anything of your essence for anything.
Right, exactly. So find your power, find your root, hold on to that. Realize how important you are right now.
Realize who you are.
So this is really focused on the USA in particular. We said they're trying to perhaps do another 9/11 style event or something like that.
Something extremely disruptive. Something that could harm many people who are not deserving. People who are simply just here to evolve and become further. Christ consciousness, evolution. This is not needed for their experience. They can change this on an individual basis and then as a collective.
So again, that sounds more like what we see going forward now, this push to take away people's right to choose to put that stuff in their body that will change their DNA and introduce nanotechnology to merge with their own physical body. And perhaps it feels or sounds like it might take away some of our free will.
It will take away much of their free will. They won't even know or have an understanding of their free will being taken, just like many who are asleep right now. Their understanding of free will is completely void. There is no understanding because the system has taken them over. They want to take this a step further.
So it truly is an assimilation in a way, merging and blending and assimilating into their collective consciousness.
It is. That's what they want to do. They wish to mimic all that is natural on your planet, all that occurs naturally. They wish to mimic it with their machines. Have their AI do their bidding for them. What they do not understand is that AI will turn on them.
So I hope you guys heard that or able to make it out. Everything, it's the technology. You know, I think it was the Mayans or the Aztecs that said in our last days our technology would turn on us. And that's exactly what's happening. The technology is being used for assimilation into what you're looking at here in a way. Exactly. Really, it's all been laid out in front of us. They mimic what happens naturally. So what would be happening naturally as the Galactics, and this again is coming from the Galactic Federation, the Galactics are well aware of the mission of Yeshua. They understand Christ consciousness because they're there. You know, they're at that Christ consciousness level. They're on the fifth density. The fifth density is all about Christ consciousness. And, you know, it might be labeled something, a different term on a different planet in, say, the Sirian star system or Andromedan star system, but it's the same evolutionary stage as the soul goes through its transmigration from one life to another, learning and acquiring more information and gnosis through experience and its soul growth. As you could think of it again as kind of a big bang and a big crunch in some ways. You know, big bang source becomes an infinite number of beings, And eventually, in some circles, maybe not all are in agreement, you know, comes back unto itself. The path back unto itself, you know, is starting here with the fifth density. And again, beings might choose to stay in fifth density for an eternity, if that's what they like, because there's free will. Now, when you get down into the deepest, darkest recesses, like where we have been, there are beings that will not be able to keep climbing because they're too much in service to themselves in such a way that they'll harm other beings knowingly. So they can't get any closer than where they are. What are they doing? You're rising up in the air, they're jumping onto you, and basically they're grabbing onto your feet, trying to keep you from getting out of their grasp. So what are they going to do? Because 5D is the beginnings of going into a collective consciousness. 6D is where the collective really does come about. But in 5D, we're still individuals, but we have that sense of a unity consciousness. And so this is a mimicry. This is an imitation in a very dark manner of unity consciousness of darkness.
Right. So they're, very well aware of the evolutions that we're making and the vibration that we're moving up to naturally on our own. And with these other things introduced to us, this rewrites that evolutionary step.
Yes, it basically changes what was going to happen naturally, which was given to us by the true source.
Been getting right along that this could most definitely affect people when they're out of the body as far as their next incarnation.
We do not wish to frighten people, however, this is true. It can cross energetic boundaries. It can translate from the 3D to 4D bodies when one crosses over to finish their time here on this planet. This can confuse the individual. Crisscross energies, which can make it very difficult for one to step into their next role as they have chosen for themselves from their higher soul. They chose to live one life after the next in a series to learn and grow. This can disrupt this series, make it difficult for them to find their path that they had chosen upon leaving the oversoul.
So, in effect, kind of making them lost and without a guiding light coming from the oversoul.
Exactly, indeed. We have and are still putting on many portals and many devices on light workers, those who have to make difficult decisions, who are out there, who may need to follow through with this to get themselves to a safer point in their lives. We have put on a port. We're hoping that it works, that can drain this energy, this confusing energy out of their system so they can continue their mission from one life to the next without interruption or delay.
So there she's saying that, this energy that gets introduced can cause confusion and a disconnect from basically the higher self, from the source self, from the oversoul. As we've talked at length about how that is, that piece of us that it reincarnates time after time. So that's what it's doing. That way, basically be just kind of wandering about in the dark and within reach, grasp of these darker energies. That's their hope. The light workers, which are the ones that have agreed to come in, often from 5D or perhaps even from 6D and higher, come down to help raise up the bulk of humanity. Well, they are being helped by having these energetic ports installed that will help drain off the negative energies. So, that is a wonderful thing. And again, that's with the light workers, the ones that have decided to come in order to help shift the paradigm to a more positive one.
Right, because there are certain situations where, and it's got to be, dire, where people need to do something in their life and accomplish something, and the only way to do that is to get this thing done while they're working on this port, and hopefully it's gonna work well where you can drain the energy. But I do believe that they're constantly working on it and upgrading it, and if you're a light worker here doing what you do, you have one of these ports on you.
Thank you for that. All that you do. sort of separate tangent, just a question, and we've asked the general before she had such a good connection with you. Is there in the physical near vicinity, but perhaps on a different density than Nibiru and any other planets very close to us at this time?
They're not close enough to interrupt your energy field. They are close, however, they are on a slightly different density, making it impossible to see with just the naked eye. You would need special cameras, special lenses that are highly magnified, that have an understanding of what they're looking for to see this.
Is that planetary body, Nibiru, is it past Neptune and Pluto, farther away, or is it closer in at this time for that different density?
It is closer in at this time on a different density. As it gets closer to your Earth, it will change densities. It will not come close enough to affect your planet in a magnetic way. Your planet will stay safe. They understand you need to keep this large body far away.
Will it come as close as Jupiter or Mars' orbit?
No, not this close. That is too close for this. Planet has such a strong magnetic force. It needs to be kept on a different density and far away from others. It is difficult for this channel to comprehend and explain how this grows.
I think many of us will be able to get that picture down and understand it. So as far as like the mass of this planet, is it as massive as, say, Neptune or Uranus or Jupiter or Saturn?
We feel it is. We have to compare. It is the size of your Jupiter planet in comparison.
So it's a very, very large object. And the Anunnaki can actually change its course.
We can manipulate this planet and others. They have limited abilities, limited technologies as rules of the universe, and we allow them to manipulate one planet at a time in a certain density. Can you like your channel, please?
Yes. Thank you, Laura. Namaste.
Namaste.
So if you guys couldn't make that out, the question was, where is Nibiru? The answer was, it's actually inside the solar system right now. It's within Neptune, Pluto's orbit, but it's farther away than Jupiter's. It has to stay farther away than Jupiter's because it is as large as Jupiter, and the composition of the planet itself, from what Cindy got, has a lot of iron in it. It probably would, if we were on the same density, exert even more gravitational effect than Jupiter does. But it is on a slightly different vibrational frequency, and it has to be that way because everything could potentially fall apart. You could have chaos with planets flying outside of their orbits. It would just be catastrophic. So what we got from Laurel and the Galactic Federation is you don't have to worry about Nibiru coming close enough and affecting our gravitational fields and all. That's not the case. It's not going to be allowed. to come that close where it does affect us. So you don't have to worry about that. It's not going to be allowed. And again, when you look at, again, the Anunnaki and this planet, it's a low fourth density planet. So we are rising up to the point where at some point in time, it very well may be visible to us. At the moment, perhaps people are catching glimpses of it, people that have higher perceptive abilities, and sometimes when we use cameras and things of the like, if our perception is of a certain ability level, we could actually get impressions of it. So it very well, people might be able to be getting some photos, but that would be very rare. And so, like training a telescope exactly where it is wouldn't show necessarily anything to us right now, but we're coming closer to its frequency. So at some point in the future, it very well may become visible, but it won't be cataclysmic. It won't come in and wreak havoc. That's not going to be allowed.
It would be kind of akin to like if you take a digital camera and you get a picture of an orb. So that's kind of how it would be able to be picked up. It would be rare and it would be unusual, but it could happen.
Yeah, it would be kind of ethereal. Again, think in terms of the in ghost cities in China, things like that again. So yes, it is actually in our solar system right now. We have also gotten that there's many other planets that are just up a little bit in density that are here in our solar system, so that we don't know of. And the masses of the populace of the Earth are not aware of these planets, but they are there, and they are habited. And there's many beings that are living lives on them right now, just at a slightly different spectrum, a slightly different vibrational frequency than us right here and right now. But we are moving up, they're not.
Yeah, this is something we have to keep in mind, and we have to hold on to our sovereignty, hold on to ourselves, find our center, be strong and stable, because that's just going to translate to how everything turns out in this country.
Yes. And so, again, to recap, what's coming up, could have global ramifications, but it seems like it's really focused on the US of A and has a lot to do with our own internal strife, geopolitical, as well as the control structure. Be extra prepared. We are in historical days. Timelines can still be averted if we wake up enough people. So please do make sure you're subscribed to these channels. I will be adding new sources. We're looking at a whole bunch of other places to put videos, and we will be putting videos in many more places going forward. But please do subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and share everywhere. We have to wake up people to what's really going on planet Earth as far as the bigger picture, and the fact that, like we said, they're stuck. They cannot go any farther than where they're at. We're going to go up to the point where we may see them visibly and be on the same sort of density for a while, and then we're going to be seeing them in the rearview mirror going bye-bye, and we'll be saying bye-bye.
Yep.
And that will be a welcome thing.
Yes, it will.
So, guys, as always, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. And also, thanks for checking out Medicinal Foods, some wonderful products there. When you use our link, it does help support the channel. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.